All right, John. John, where'd you grow up? Where are you from?
I'm from Mount Clemens, Michigan. Yeah, that's where I was born.
Outside of Detroit.
Yeah, about 20 miles north of Detroit.
And tell me about your childhood. You had both your parents?
No, I grew up single parent household. It was just me, my mother, and my little brother. My dad was in the picture, but he wasn't a part of my daily life. Yeah, so it was just us three.
And how would you describe your childhood?
To be honest with you, I didn't have a bad childhood. I wasn't abused or anything like that. My mother wasn't on drugs or she wasn't an alcoholic. She was just, she just worked hard, and she worked 2 jobs all the time. So, I never really got to see her. So me and my little brother were usually with my grandparents or an aunt or an uncle or a babysitter. And I guess I had a relatively normal childhood. We were poor, which I was unaware of, until I got later on into my teenage years, But yeah, man, my childhood was all right.
How far did you go to school?
I graduated high school and I went to college.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
So after your college years, what did you do with your life?
Well, immediately after college, I went to go work for a print company in Miami, Florida. I received my associate's degree in graphic design from the Art Institute, Fort Lauderdale. And I went to go work for a print company right out of college in Miami. I was a lead graphic design artist. We did like auto wraps, we screen printed t-shirts, we did banners, we did flyers, we did a little bit of everything.
And eventually, something led you into trouble.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been in and out of trouble pretty much my whole life. I was incarcerated from the age of about 13 until I was about 19.
Oh, so what was going on as a young teenager?
Yeah, I was just angry, I guess. I didn't have any role models growing up. There was no positive male role models in my life, and so I tried to kind of, my personality and who I actually developed into be was heavily influenced by MTV. And because, at this time in the early 90s, MTV was it. There was nothing else. It was only MTV. And so MTV was like, that's where my personality came from, Beavis and Butthead and, fucking all the other shows that were on MTV. And kids in the neighborhood, I was heavily influenced by the kids in the neighborhood, people I was hanging around, which we didn't really live in a nice neighborhood. So, I guess you could imagine, the influences that, which weren't that good, So I started stealing, real young, shoplifting, breaking and entering, stealing bikes, breaking into cars, stealing cars when I was about 13, 14 years old. And then it just kind of progressed. The crimes kind of just progressed from there into my teenage years. So, yeah, I spent a lot of time in juvenile halls, Boysville, Maxie's BTS, boot camp. I was there about 10 or 11 months out of every year I was incarcerated from about 13 until about 19.
You were a troublemaker.
I was, yeah. I was a troubled youth for sure, yeah. I started scamming, real young. As a kid, with Photoshop, I would make I would print little like UPC labels so I could go and get like free food from like restaurants and shit in South Beach. The scam started early, It was just a way for me to survive.
So you were blending your artistic talent with your scamming tendencies.
Yeah, wherever something had a weakness or could be exploited, I just took advantage because I was just somehow I was just clever enough to figure it out. Yeah. So when scamming came along, when the credit card shit came along, after I was let go consequently from my job because the owners kind of were getting indicted by the feds, and I show up for work one morning and the FBI, they were there and they were shutting everything down. And the owner's wife, she came and she cut like me and like 3 other people checks for the rest of the year for our salary because we were all salary. And she says, go cash these now. We would immediately go cash them. And she's like, it is what it is. It's a wrap. So at this time, I'm buried in student debt. I couldn't get another job making what they were paying me. They were paying me something real ridiculous, like 60 a year, 65 a year. And I just couldn't, nobody else wanted to pay me that money. And I was buried in student loans. So I started looking into alternative means of ways to finance my life, which at this point, I had a nice condo in downtown Miami on Brickell. I was driving a brand new car. You know what I mean? I had money in the bank because I was making really good money, and then it just all went away. And now all I have is left is debt, and there's no income coming in, and now I've got debt. So now I have to create a new stream of income. And fraud was just, that's where my brain immediately went. And this is early 2000s. This is probably 2000, about 2005 or so. So fraud and credit card fraud and all of that shit was like just starting to sprout here in the United States. You know what I mean? Like it was in the 90s. It was, it was different, because then when the 2000s came in, it added the whole technology started to really kick in, the internet. Devices you could make to get credit card information from different networks was all starting to come into play, and I was just in the right place at the right time, and I got in early when everything was just taking off, and like I said, I'm clever, and I kind of just figured it out, and it just snowballed as it went on.
So you chose credit cards as the avenue to
it just
counterfeit.
Just doing my research and figuring out all of the ways to make money. Carding was it. I knew that there was something there. Like I didn't have it all figured out, and I didn't really have all the pieces of the puzzle put together. But I knew in the beginning that this is where the money was. I just had to figure it out.
And I did a little research on Amazon. You can buy all the pieces you need to make.
You can, and this is pre-Amazon, so. It was eBay. It was actually where I bought most of the equipment
to make credit cards.
To do what I did. Yeah, a lot of the bigger printers and stuff I bought eBay. I had to go through a couple little specialty companies to get a few things, but yeah, for the most part, everything's just readily available on the internet.
The plastic cards, the embossing,
everything except for the holograms, the Visa and MasterCard physical holograms, but with a little bit of research on the internet, those aren't hard to find.
But the information that's connected with that card number?
So to actually encode the card, that information comes from a third-party source, somebody who is a hacker, which I'm not a hacker. I'm a counterfeiter. My expertise wasn't breaking into computers or coding or anything like that. I'm an artist at the end of the day. So counterfeiting is just what I do, or what I did rather. And so that's a whole different side of the operation. That is actually from a hacker, somebody who gains access to servers where this information is stored, and then they resell it on the dark web. But I didn't deal with that side of the operation. All I did was make the plastic.
And you would sell the cards to people?
Yes, I would sell the plastic. Yeah.
So you weren't necessarily making cards for yourself to go buy?
In the beginning I was, yeah. So I actually started, how I got into it is I just started buying the cards myself and then going to Walmart, Best Buy, wherever, and then, buying large electronics and then selling those. And that's how I got into it initially, yeah.
But there's a market for this?
Yeah, there's a big market.
On the dark web?
Sure, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And how long did this last?
I had a good 5-year run. I say 5 solid years, from when I very first started all the way up until when the Secret Service subsequently got me in 2009.
And what kind of money were you making?
At the very pinnacle of what I deemed to be my success, I was doing 100 orders a month on average. And 100 orders with me was $1,000 minimum order. For $1,000, you got 100 blank Visa or MasterCards, and I would work with you on the driver's licenses because I also made those as well. So at the very pinnacle of my success, I was doing about 100 orders a month, which is roughly about $100,000 a month. Yeah, and that wasn't every month. Some months would be 20 orders, some months would be 40, 50, anywhere between 20 and 100 orders. But yeah, so it was good money. Yeah.
Stressful? lifestyle?
Not as much as you would think.
You just like selling something?
It's just my attitude, I guess, towards it. You know, I was never paranoid. I was always comfortable because A, it was just me. Didn't involve anybody in what I was doing. Nobody knew what I was doing. You know, I didn't tell everybody what I was doing. And B, my fundamental understanding of internet security protocols just gave me a peace of mind. You know.
And it's pretty hard to track you down?
If you were just trying to find me, my digital footprint, yes, it's impossible. I'm a ghost if I want to be.
And the people you'd sell to would be all over the world?
All over the world, yeah. South America, Brazil, Colombia. I was sending cars to Russia, Switzerland, all over the UK.
How much was in the U.S.?
I'd say about maybe 20%, 25% of my sales were U.S. based.
Really? Yeah. And then how'd you get caught?
Well, I moved to Rock Hill, South Carolina, and that was the nail in the coffin. You know, my ignorance, my comfortableness, me being just a little bit too comfortable, and, you know, me going to South Carolina, there was 2 UPS stores, and I had to rotate to send out my packages. Whereas in South Florida, where I was operating, you could put UPS store in your GPS, and you could hit a different one every day of the week for months, and you would never have to. You know what I mean? So, so yeah, they set me up at a UPS store. They figured out which UPS store I had been sending my cards out of. The old man at the UPS store opened my box and went through and found what I had been sending out. He contacted the Postmaster General. Postmaster General contacted the Secret Service, and then they set me up. And when I went there one day to pick up a package, they were there waiting.
So it was an employee at the UPS store that...
It was the owner, and I didn't know he was the owner. Yeah.
So he's the one who started the investigation into you.
Yeah, yeah. Sure was.
Why would what you're sending have been suspicious to him? Did you have the tattoos on your head?
You know, no, I didn't at this time. I had a few, but I didn't have, not anywhere where I look like today. This is 12, 13 years
I can imagine in South Carolina they'd be...
It was a small town. I was a young kid. I was driving a brand new Cadillac. I was coming in there 2 or 3 times a week, and my packages were going all over the world. So he probably thought it was drugs. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he probably thought it was drugs, pills, or something like that. And,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then how did the feds get onto you?
The Postmaster General contacted the Secret Service, and the Secret Service went to the UPS store, asked for, you know, they showed it to them. They seen that it was, I think it was like 500 Visa cards, blanks I was sending out. And then I had a package coming in that day, so they sent me an email telling me I had a package, which coincidentally I did. So I went to go pick up my package, and then the Secret Service was there waiting on me.
So like I've had my card hacked many times over the years, where all of a sudden someone is using my card for buying groceries or gas or computers or phones, whatever, in Texas or in Florida or wherever.
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
That's what it is. That's the whole thing. Yeah. See, anytime you go to, say, Walgreens, Walmart, CVS, you know, Best Buy, anywhere where you swipe that thing or put your chip in, that information that's held on your card, that's encoded to your card, is subsequently saved to a server somewhere. It's held somewhere. Now, what these kids in Eastern Ukraine, Russia, what they do is they hack this information, which is, you know, it's called dump is the terminology for it, and it's the information that's encoded to the back of your credit card. Now, that information is sold to people who actually buy cards from people like me who make them, and then with a very, very cheap, inexpensive piece of equipment, they can just code your shit.
So you're selling the cards, someone else is encoding it?
Yes. So so say you're the end customer. Mm-hmm. Okay, you buy a blank piece of plastic from me, and then you have another vendor who you buy the numbers from that were hacked. Now, with the numbers and the plastic and one other little tiny piece of equipment, you can encode that person's debit card information to a piece of plastic that I sold you.
So you have somebody else.
Now you have it. Now you can go anywhere you want and use it, and they can hold up to any scrutiny. They can put it under a black light. They can swipe it, anything.
And they know what your limit is on your credit card and all that?
No. See, that's the thing. Is you don't really know how much money someone has in their bank account. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I mean, there's no way for me to tell that. There's no way I can check your balance. You know what I mean? So it's like, you have to like pick the right BIN number. And a BIN number is what's called a bank identification number. It's the first 6 digits of any credit card, debit card on the planet will tell you what bank issued it, whether it's a gold card, a Visa card, a debit card, a platinum card. It'll give a designation for what card that is. So by the BIN number, you can kind of guesstimate a rough estimate of how much money is going to be in the bank, but then you just never know at the end of the day.
Yeah, because I noticed when my card gets hacked, the first few transactions, very small.
They want to test the card out. They test it to see if it's gonna,
and
then they go for the big purchase.
And then I get a call from the credit card company saying, you know, did you purchase?
Yeah, those are rookie mistakes though. Those are rookie mistakes because you're just supposed to go for the big purchase because now the little ones are getting them shut down because now they know what to look for. So, oh yeah, I'm gonna go buy a soda real quick to see if it'll work, and then I'll go to Best Buy, and then it gets shut down. So you're just supposed to go for the big one right away.
Right.
And that's why you're supposed to have 2 or 3 backups. But yeah.
Interesting.
It's a whole thing, man. Yeah.
So when they came for you, how did that happen? How'd you get caught?
No, I walked in. I just walked in to get a package and I signed for it and I kind of just felt like everything was normal. And I went to go walk out the door. And here were 2 Secret Service agents walking in plain clothes. And I seen a gun and a badge. It was the first thing I seen. I'm like, fuck. And then they're like, Mr. Pearson, which is the name I was using at that time. I was using the alias Ryan Pearson at that time. And I was like, yeah. They're like, well, we need to talk to you about what you've been sending out of here. And I played stupid for a couple of seconds because I was kind of panicking. And I was like, what do you mean? And they were like, they both kind of looked at me like, we have your package you sent out of here. We know what you've been sending out. I'm like, fuck. They're like, well, let's go back and talk. I was like, all right. So we go in back at the UPS store and we're talking. And I sit down and I'm like, that scene, of course you've seen that movie Blow. Mm-hmm. And the scene at the very end when he realizes that all his homies fucked him and he knows he's fucked and he sat there, he's like, all right, fuck it, let's do it. I literally said that. Those words came out of my mouth. I just sat down. I was like, all right, fuck it, let's do it. They're like, what's your name? And I told them I was like, John Boseak. And immediately I had Blackberries and they hopped on their Blackberry, put my name in, just so they could see if I was telling the truth, pull up my picture, do my background. I gave them my name, my date of birth, my social security number. Like, what you been sending out of here? I was like, credit cards. And they were like, how long have you been doing this? And I was like, only a couple of months. And I told them, yeah, I just sell them on the internet. I was like, I do it out of my bedroom. I was like, I just have a small printer, and I sell them on the internet, and I make a couple $100 every month. That was the story that I told them in the beginning in my initial interrogation when they initially busted me, and that's the story that I stuck to all the way up until my sentencing. I never fucking veered from that story. I stuck to all my facts 100%, and I never fucking veered from that story. Even when they called me down, I later, dig this, they didn't arrest me. They put me in the back of their car, took me to my house. They had a bunch of paper, because listen, I was like, listen, I wasn't going to play ball. I wasn't going to tell them anything, because at this point, I'm going to jail. You know what I mean? So I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to jail. I'm not going to give these motherfuckers anything. You know what I mean? So then I'm like, well, they're like, well, if you play ball, you're not going to go to jail. I'm like, I'm not going to go to jail. They're like, yeah, I mean, so they were on the phone with their superior, with their captain. They put him on speakerphone, and we had like a little phone conference back there in the back of the UPS store with the head of the Southern District of the United States Secret Service, like the head dude, and like the field agents. And they were like, because I think that they thought I was just a small cog in a bigger wheel. Yes, and initially I think that's what they were hoping for, and I realized that immediately when they didn't put me in cuffs. I knew 2 things: A, they don't know who I am, and they don't know the full extent of what I've been doing. Because if they did, we wouldn't be having a conversation right now, and I'd be in handcuffs. B, they think I'm part of something a lot bigger. So now I see wiggle room. You know, my brain automatically starts fucking figuring shit out, and I'm like, okay, now I know I have a little bit of room to negotiate with these fuckers. So I signed some papers saying that they could come to my house and search and seize and all that shit. They put me in the back of their car. They drive me to my condo. They came in. They searched the whole place. They confiscated anything with removable storage on it. So laptops, hard drives, you know, at this time there was like, we had digital cameras because cell phone, like cameras on cell phones weren't even like really a thing back then. Yeah, so anything with digital storage, they confiscated, and they didn't arrest me. And I had guns at the house. I had several assault rifles, handguns, and everything. They left all my guns there. I had weed, I had marijuana at the house. And mind you, this is South Carolina. Marijuana's illegal there. And this is, you know, in 2009. So this was before medical and shit was even, you know. So yeah, no, they left that there. They're like, well, we're not the ATF. We don't care about the guns and the drugs. We just want the computer equipment and all the frauding equipment and all that shit. So yeah, they took everything and then they gave me their card and they said, we need you to come down to this address on this date. And it was like 2 weeks away, or so it was like 2 weeks.
So you were free.
Yeah, they stayed 2 weeks. They were like, you need to come down to this. You need to be at this address. If not, you'll have a warrant out for your arrest, obviously. And I had to go down to the headquarters in Columbia, South Carolina, the Secret Service headquarters. I had to go down there. In 2 weeks, they gave me a date to be there. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was it. That was pretty much it. I showed up 2 weeks later to the interview, and I walk in, and there's probably 15 or 20 people sitting at this table, and these were all older gentlemen. You know what I mean? These weren't like the young bucks. These were all like seasoned guys. And so apparently they had flown people in from Washington, D.C., from Vegas, from California. They flew people in from all over the country, like, you know, top guys. And they had, in the middle of the table, they had screenshots of all of my posts from online, like all of them. From every single forum I had been on, they had all my screenshots because I had a shop on all the forums because I was like one of the biggest vendors on all of the forums. This is, now mind you, this is early 2000s, so this is pre-dark web, this is pre-Onion Router, this is pre-Silk Road, this is before all of that. So really there was just carding forums. And I was the shit, like I was the biggest vendor on all the forums. I was the guy, you know what I mean? I was the guy that everybody was buying from. So they had screenshots of all my posts laid out, and they were just asking me questions, and they just tore me apart for like 3.5 hours. But I never veered from my story, ever. Never veered from my story, you know?
So did they catch on how big you were?
No, you know, what ended up happening was when I went to court, I was blessed with the best public defender you could ever ask for. Her name was Catherine Everett, out of Columbia, South Carolina. I don't know if she is now, but she was a public defender for the federal court system. And we figured out that the gentleman who opened my package was not supposed to. There's a chain of command you're supposed to follow. He was supposed to contact the Postmaster General. The Postmaster General is the only one with the authority to open federally sealed mail. So right then and there, they had to throw out possession of counterfeiting equipment. They had to throw out possession of the fraudulent transaction devices. They had to throw out the manufacturing of fraudulent transaction devices. They had to throw out the mail fraud, the wire. They had to get rid of all of that. The only thing that they could charge me with was the aggravated identity theft because I had my picture on someone else's driver's license that I had made. And that carries a mandatory minimum of 24 months. And that was it.
Wow.
I walked.
How lucky.
Yeah, I walked.
That's incredibly lucky.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah. And by the time I got, and mind you, between 2009 and when I got sentenced, it was like 3 years. Something happened, they lost the paperwork, or they just didn't indict me, or they took them 3 years to federally indict me. Between when I got picked up in 2009, when I got busted in 2009, and when I got picked up in 2012 or 13.
So you only did how much?
And then I did 24 months. I got out in 2015. Yeah. But I actually started, in those 3 years, I actually started back up making credit cards again. Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, listen, I had a little bit of money like put aside, and like I ran through that in like a year.
After you got out?
After I got out, and like me and the girl I was with, my baby's mother split up because of, you know, everything that had happened. So I was like, what am I going to do? You know what I mean? Like, I thought that they weren't going to prosecute me or something. I'm like, after the first year, so I took the little bit of money I had and I bought more equipment and I just fucking started making credit cards again. I went on to make like another $1.5 million in between the time when they caught me and again when they picked me up again after that.
Oh, so this was before you did your serious time.
This is before I went and did like the 24 months or whatever. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. How many people are doing this, you think, across the U.S.?
Now it's so widespread, it's like a wildfire. It's literally like wildfire. I think probably 1 out of every 5 teens or youth are probably committing some kind of fraud one way or another. Yeah, it's like the popular culture. It's soaked its way into popular culture now. And now kids that aren't even doing fraud are saying they're fraudsters and saying they're scammers. It's gotten to that point now. Yeah, but I mean, this was so subculture back, when I was 20 years ago, when I was doing it, it was so like, nobody knew what was going on.
Interesting world we live in, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So where does your life go from here? How old are you?
I'm 36.
36.
I just turned 36.
And you have a son? Or you have a child?
I do, yeah. I have 2 kids. I have 2 boys.
Oh, 2 boys, okay.
Yeah, I have 2 boys. And, I try to be the best I can to them. I'm in constant contact with my kids. My one son, he just turned 13, and me and him are on Instagram every single day, FaceTiming, and we talk and, shit like that. So yeah, I'm trying to just be a good person, and I'm trying to, be a good dad. And I just focus on, my artwork now, and I'm a full-time tattoo artist. I tattoo.
So you're not doing anything that's going to get you in?
No, nothing like that. No, I'm doing YouTube now, man. I got my own YouTube channel, and that's just my life now. Yeah, I'm fully consumed by it.
Yeah, that's great. What have you learned from this? I mean, do you have regrets about doing it, or do you see it as?
I don't have any regrets, man.
No?
No, I don't have any regrets in life. I know I may have, hurt a lot of people. I may have inconvenienced a lot of people financially, but at the end of the day, I don't regret anything that I've done, because I kind of look at it as it's everything that we go through in life. It's the people we see, it's the experiences we have, it's the decisions we make. It's all of that cumulatively that make us who we are. And I'm happy with who I am. Like today, I'm genuinely happy with who I am as a person, and I like who I am. And you go back and you change any one component in that chain, and I may not be who I am today or be where I am today, and I'm happy with that. So no, I don't have any regrets at all.
What's the most important lesson you've learned in your life?
It's a good question. The most important lesson I've learned thus far in life. Is just to trust your instincts, and if something doesn't feel right, or you see that your life is going in a direction, that hopefully you have the foresight to see things like that you can change it, And I've just learned the most important lesson is just to kind of make good decisions and think about tomorrow, Because the older I get, the more I think about the bigger picture, and the more I start thinking years out. As before, I was only thinking like day to day, and that was just my life. It was just, what am I going to do today? What am I going to do tomorrow? And my thought process never went beyond that, And then when I started making a lot of money, and I started seeing, and my world opened up a little bit, and I started thinking months out in advance. And now I'm thinking like decades. I'm thinking decades out in advance.
Yeah, I used to play a lot of chess when I was young, back in school, and that taught me how important every single move we make.
Everything you do.
Everything you do. The little thing that you just did is going to play a role in where you're at 2 or 3 years from now.
I agree. Yeah,
I see so many people that I interview that are just like going day by day and just doing whatever they do every day. And it's like the move you make today affects you in some weird indirect way.
It does.
Where you're at in 3 years.
Yeah, I'm on a mission. I'm on a fucking mission, and I have a plan. You know what I mean? And every single day I wake up, I'm proactively trying to make my life better and trying to put myself into a better position to where tomorrow I'm going to be more comfortable, or tomorrow I'm going to have more money, or tomorrow I'm going to be closer to the goals that I'm trying to achieve. And that's what my whole mission in life is, and that's what my whole YouTube channel is about. Just setting goals and trying to be successful in life, and helping other people kind of maybe avoid the same pitfalls that I did. And I think, maybe in the future I want to get into working with at-risk youth, because my childhood was so fucking crazy and wild, You know what I mean? Like just being homeless for so many years and being on the street, and like I feel like, man, I could really, like, I can genuinely help, you know, teenagers like the youth.
What do you think it is about our society, at least here in the U.S., that makes, I don't know what, for lack of a better word, being bad so attractive? Like you mentioned earlier, the kids that want to be counterfeiters, and drugs are more prevalent than ever, and you know, even bad is, the term bad is a compliment now.
It's
right?
it's pop culture, maybe. I think a pop culture has a lot to do with it. The romanticizing of the gangsters from the 1920s and 1930s, you know, Capone and that, and then, you know, going into the 90s, and it's the anti-hero, it's the underdog, it's the, you know, the great American romance story is, you know, the American gangster. It's so ingrained in our culture, in our pop culture, and it's the zeitgeist of our time, and I think it always will be.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
All right, John. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Cool, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you, man.